We're talking about the symphony.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk about the symphony. Yay!
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Are there translators on? You should clap. You should always clap.
I should always.
Thing.
There.
Okay.
I did my thing. I did my job.
So I actually wanted to start by the very, very first ESP session I had many years ago, that turned everything upside down. Everything changed, and it was, when I look back at it, it's like my whole life changed tracks. And after that, I went on this whole new journey where energy was like the guide of this journey. And I know that at that time, I couldn't even imagine that I could, or that any of us could really facilitate an energetic session. So what changed? Like, what happened? How are you able to?
Well, this whole journey of consciousness has been like exactly that. And what happened was Gary came to my office and I didn't know how to do what he wanted. And he said, ask my body what it wants, follow the energy, what it wants, follow the energy, you'll know what to do. And it gave me a level of freedom to just open up and trust the universe. And this ESB energy became available, which is also the SOP energy. I just give them different names because Symphony of Possibilities is so much nicer than energetic synthesis of being. And I wanted people to be clear that they do this their own way. They are part of the symphony, and none of us plays our instrument the same. And so what changed? Well, so I did thousands upon thousands of sessions, and would always do sessions in the back of the room while Gary was doing classes. And I did this for years. And finally, one day, somebody came to me and said, can you talk to us about what you're doing? Like, can you teach us how to do what you do? And I was like, sure, why not? Because before that, it was always me doing sessions and me doing ESs, which are these big groups of everybody in the room. And I was like, okay, so I scheduled my first ESB taster where I was going to talk about it. And I scheduled 90 minutes thinking I would be done in an hour and have told them everything I knew. And I was 2 hours in and I'd given them 0.05% of what I wanted to. And I was like, oh, I guess I've gained a lot of awareness and a lot of knowledge over the years of doing this. And so I created ESB classes where I could talk for 3 days. But what it did was what it gave people was this ability to step into this universe of being them. And what I realized was it gave them a platform for being them. Well, fast forward several years of doing ESB classes, and I knew something needed to change. And I was watching this musical called Once, and I was there in the theater in New York on Broadway, crying my eyes out as this thing is going on, because where everybody else is seeing a beautiful thing up there, I'm perceiving, as these people are singing, I'm perceiving every molecule in everybody's body vibrating, and every molecule in the theater, and how every molecule in the universe vibrates. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what I want to bring to the world, this awareness. And so I did the very first SOP class. And so I thought ESB had now become SOP. I was wrong, because I did that very first SOP class without requiring ESB as a prerequisite. And so people were stepping into this capacity to move energy miraculously without any idea of what the heck they were doing. And it, quite frankly, scared me a little bit. I was like, this is the weirdest class I've ever facilitated, and people are going to the weirdest places, but they don't have a space of their being available. And then I realized, oh, SOP, there's ESB, but SOP requires ESB as a prerequisite. It requires the platform for your being. So basically what occurred is if you look at from where ESB became available on this planet, which was in that first session with Gary, the progression of it was doing thousands and thousands of sessions on people and changing things that were miraculous. People would tell me, this is a miracle. I've had this for 25 years and it's gone. And I'm like, I know, it's awesome, isn't it? And what I would do is I would look into their universe to see where they had created a construct that wasn't them being them, and help them to change it energetically by being a space of being that was acknowledging their being to such a degree that what wasn't their being would just vanish out of their world. And so doing thousands of these sessions put this energy into the world. Doing the ESP classes put the energy in the world in a different way, in which people were actually walking around being them. And then finally, with enough of that, the door was open for people to be able to, now that I have a platform for my being, now I can access these magical energies, if you will, or these energies that are, I mean, we call it magical because it looks that way to us. In actuality, it's the energy of our being interacting with the universe. Because for me, the universe is like, it's like you look up or look around and it's like this continuous movement of molecules and lights and sounds and shapes shifting into others. And I realized finally other people can now access this. And that's what the symphony is about. That's what SOP is about, is being part of that symphony that allows you to access the magic that the universe really is.
Oh my God. And I remember when you described the first time when you were at that musical, and you described how you were seeing the notes in front of you, kind of like moving in front of you, like you were seeing through the universe of that music and into something different.
Yes. And it was so beautiful. I literally just sat there with tears streaming down my face. And it was one of those awarenesses, you know, in living our life, we get a lot of awarenesses that we tend to ignore because they don't match our other awarenesses, or they don't match somebody else's point of view. And what occurred with this was there was such a dynamic movement in it, and something I had desired to not only experience, but also gift others the experience and the awareness of my whole life. And here it was. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going in this direction now. And I was so grateful. And it's interesting because, you know, here we are many years later, after many, many Symphony of Possibilities classes have been facilitated. And the beautiful part about it is when I first started, it was so much work to get people to recognize there's an energetic world that you can tap into. There's a space of being that you can be that will literally change things in people's bodies and their lives. It required so much energy and so much work on my part, and so much willingness to be so friggin' different from the people in the class. And now it's just like you show up in class and it's like, here it is. And it just is. And it became very apparent to many people when we started doing mostly online classes. Holy crap, this is actually working. And it's like, this is, I mean, it's so accessible now. And which means that our baseline has changed from just being able to barely do it to, wow, what else? How can I play with this now?
And it reminds me of that story with the 12th monkey, the 11th monkey.
The
monkey. Yes. Because there's something that occurs now in classes where people basically, brand new people come in, and there are people who've done it a while, but it also somehow exists in the universe in a completely different way. So people just like step into it and have access to it nearly instantly.
Yep. And it's really an amazing thing to perceive. And, you know, somebody described it once like, it used to be like most of the people doing SOP in the beginning classes, it's like they were part of a symphony and they were over in the corner with their little out of tune triangle, hitting it at the wrong time, you know, making some noise, but having no friggin' clue. And now it's like people are actually playing the most beautiful instruments, and it continues to get greater all the time. And so this for me it's one of my favorite classes to facilitate, because you see people get the gift of them, and they get the gift of their being in a way that most people on this planet don't even have access to.
And the other thing that I've noticed lately is that it's become more playful. Like in the beginning with the triangle era, it was more serious. They had to hit the triangle right, and they had to like get, that. And now it's way more. It has that like a dance to it, like a playfulness to it.
Yes. And that's really when we're being us, we play. We're like dolphins, we like to play. And that's one of our favorite things in the world. And I went swimming with the dolphins recently after the COP class I did in Puerto Vallarta. And these dolphins showed me an energy that has been continuously contributing in my life. And I'm like, wow, that's so like SOP. It's this movement. It's this way of being in the world where significance is not relevant anymore, and where space of being is. But it's also a space where you realize that everything is truly created from our thoughts, from our points of view, from our awareness. It's just really beautiful.
Now it started making me move.
Yeah. So, well, I just want to comment on what Helena said here. After my first SOP class, for the first time in my life, I had the sense that I know what I came here for. Thank you for posting that. And that I can create change. It was like coming home to me and the beginning of getting more of me all the time. So grateful. Thank you, my dear. I am so grateful for you.
And that actually leads me into, because sometimes when we talk about the symphony, we talk about it being this brand new energy in the world that hasn't existed before. And yet, a few weeks ago, we were talking, and you were saying, I was looking at how the earth and that sense of reconnecting and tapping into the earth. And you were saying that is the symphony energy. That is like the coming home, like Helena was saying, like that sense of somehow reconnecting to something we know deep within.
Yeah. And it is that is actually one of the things I'm so grateful for about this, is that see, it's one thing to have a mental construct of coming home or being home but this is within the cells of your body and within the space of your being. And there's nothing like using your superpowers to let you know that you have superpowers. There's no substitute for it. You can think about having superpowers all day long. Like if you can run a 4-minute mile, you can think about it all day long, but until you actually do it, you don't own it. And this is where you actually start to own the capacities that we all innately have. And it's also why ESB, Foundation ESB, are prerequisites, because you have to have that platform for your being before this even really becomes truly accessible to you.
And yesterday you were on a call and you were saying that when you're being you don't care about the outcome. You don't have like an investment in the outcome. You're just enjoying the journey. And some of that reminded me so much about a symphony session. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, it's part of the beauty of it. There's so many beautiful things about it. It's like there's so many aspects of it that just by the nature of what SOP is and what the symphony energy is and the nature of the class and all of this, what it does is it's so beautiful to be there with someone and not be vested in the outcome, that you start to be able to, it works out so well and it gives so much peace that you then take it into your life also. And I've said several times in SOP classes that, look, this looks like you working on somebody on a table, and that's why a lot of you think you're here. That's not why you're here. You're here to tap into and be this energy so that you can be it in your life in every moment, so that you can be it in every situation, so that the world actually has access to it. because any space, any energy that is an energy of consciousness that we open up to and choose, we give the world access to it by our choice. And we are a unique interaction with this universe and with this symphony universe and ESB universe, if you will. We are a unique interaction that allows us to interact with it in our own way and be certain things, bring certain things in, if you will, that we get to become now and choose to be from that point forward into our future. And then that you may be the only person in the world that's able to access it that way. But then it becomes available to our entire world. You know, and from my point of view, what we're here doing in the world and bringing more consciousness is for the world. And yet it's not where we go, I'm going to go change the world. It's, I'm going to be me and the world will change. And this gives you so much more of you and what is truly you.
You know, there's this other side too. Like when I work on somebody who has received a lot of symphony sessions, or that you worked on an ESP session before, they have a greater capacity to receive, not always, but often. So there also seems to be something that opens up in the way we receive. It's like we're also getting awakened somehow in that part of us.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing. And see, and I, you know, it's like I'm here doing my job. You know, I have this unique skill set and I'm using it and I'm being it and doing my best to contribute to everybody, recognizing they have a unique skill set also. And it's never looks the way you think it's going to, you know, so all of the invalidation people have received starts to go away. And so in working on people, so many of them receive more after a session. Like they don't just receive from the session. The session is the beginning of a greater level of receiving in their lives. And, you know, you pointed out that when you worked on people that I worked on, they seem to go way faster. You know, like you don't have to go through the whole thing of trying to find a way in and find a way to allow them to open up and find a way. It's like, it's just there because this is what they're being. Well, in the classes, that's what I do and be for everybody. And I don't know why, I don't know how. And it's not even a function of me, it's a function of we. That's how it actually works, is it's a function of we. I'm doing my part. Your part is just to show up. That's your part. You know, because a lot of people with SOP especially, it's really funny because they come in and they're like, oh my God, but I don't know how to do SOP. I'm like, that's what the class is for, you know, because we friggin' humanoids, we want to know how to do it before we get there. Otherwise, we don't want to go do it because we're not sure we'll be good at doing it, because we'll probably be bad at doing it because we've been bad at doing so many things. So we want to know how to do it before we get there. Sorry, translators. But no, it reminds me of Gary's daughter who was going to take an algebra class the next year. And she's like, Daddy, can I get an algebra tutor? He's like, sweetie, you're not even in the class yet. She's like, I know, but I want to know how to do algebra before I get to algebra. And I said to her, I said, sweetie, that's what the class is for, to show you how to do algebra. Why don't you get a tutor when you have things that you don't know how to do so they can help you with those things? And she went, oh, okay. You know, so that's what the class is for. And the beauty is all you got to do is show up, you know, and all you got to do is show up. That making that choice and being there for the 4 days is what creates the result. And this is the other thing, is that people have far more natural ability than they acknowledge, because this truly is an experience of being beyond this reality and functioning beyond this reality. And so all the validation we've tried to get has been to be validated as a good little soldier in this reality. This is being so far beyond it that you don't require validation from people who don't get what you get. And you realize, hey, if they're not on that journey, you don't need to worry about their point of view, their judgment, their validation, or anything else.
And the thing you were saying about it opening up for receiving in all parts of your life, what I notice more and more is that the symphony energy literally will go on at all kinds of moments, like for when I'm out in the forest, or even when I'm just being with somebody and somehow the energy shifts. And what I would love is to have it on all the time, like you do. But that seemed to be part of the symphonies. It's kind of infusing itself in every part of living.
It is. And it infuses even when you're not aware of it.
Yeah.
Because we look for validation that it's occurring, or we'll do something. We'll walk by a child who's like, wow. And they look all around you, because they see all the energies. And, and you're like, oh, I guess I am being it, But we don't, when we're alone in our rooms or in our houses with people, we don't tend to recognize that we're being this. And what starts to become available is actually to be this. And it's such a beautiful space because it changes the game. It's like it changes the face of your reality when you have access to this universe that the symphony is.
In the beginning where you were saying that the symphony is this way where we tap into how we're interacting, connecting, part of the whole universe. It's nearly like it's that stardust that we wrote the Stardust book about. It's like that the stardust that is within everything and everyone.
Yep. And that really is, I was doing an interview the other day and I summed up quantum physics, in one sentence, which I said, everything in the universe is a possibility and a probability until a choice is made. And it's like that. There is possibility everywhere. It is within the air and the molecules around us. And it's our point of view that we take, it's our choice that we make that allows it to show up in a particular way. And what starts to occur with SOP is you start to recognize that your life is actually an energetic movement. Nothing is solid, including your body, including your life, including your problems, including your life, including your problems, including your life, including your problems. And, and you start to recognize, wow, I can move anything. And it's funny because when I first started doing this work, there was this guy that was, who came along to Access at the same time, who's long gone. And he came along to see what he could take. I came along to see what I could contribute. And here I am still, and he's gone. And I used to say about it because I just had this sense of miracles. I'm like, oh my goodness, we can create miracles. And I kept using the word miracle all the time. And after a month of this, he was like, can you stop saying miracle? Why do you keep saying it's a miracle? I'm like, because it's a friggin' miracle. I'm like, look what just happened with this person. Look how different their life is. Look what happened with this person who couldn't move their neck and now they have full range of motion. Look what happened with this person who did this. Look what happened with this person who's now happy. Look what happened with this person who's got the relationship they always wanted. I'm like, it's a friggin' miracle. They were not going to be able to create that before. And I used to look at things. I used to look at like broken pieces of furniture and I would SOP them, because I was like, I wonder if I can repair this. And my sense is we're getting close to being able to do things like that. It may be a few years off, but that sort of thing is our natural ability. It's only the points of view we buy in this reality that limit that. We've all heard of people living for 200 years, people healing broken bones instantly. Well, in fact, a lot of us in Access have healed people's broken bones instantly. That's so easy. That's like yesterday's news, But seeing all of these things, it's like, what if we lived in a truly miraculous world? What if our world, what if we don't even, we can recognize that the universe is pretty miraculous on a general level, right? On a huge scale. I mean, how else do you get these massive things and these massive scales doing their thing? Is just so amazing. But what about looking and going, what if my life were truly miraculous? Mm. What if I walked around and lived in a world of miracles of my own creation? And then what if I were willing to choose to such a degree that I would not accept anything less than miracles? In other words, I don't resist when it's not a miracle, but I always know there's more, and that's what I'm actually headed toward.
I love that. And now, like, I can't stop moving here, but somebody put in the thread that the symphony is such a great tool or modality for head trippers, because you can think your way through the symphony. And
but you also though you can't think your way through it, but you can use the gift of this crazy creature that runs your life and give it a different task. See, for me, who's also been a head tripper my whole life, one of the reasons I was able to create such change in people when I started is because I would open up to this energy, which is what's required. And that's what the 4 days of being constantly as part of this energy, being present with it with me, but also gifting and receiving. So you get it in all kinds of cracks and crevices in your own world. But what I would do is I would open up to this energy, and then I would perceive something somebody had going on and be a space of no judgment. So I was just looking at it like, wow, that's interesting. This twisted pain you're in. I wonder what energy can I be and how can I change it? Okay. So I'd be like, okay, I'd try this. I'd be present. And then I'd go, oh, what if I turn this like this? And I'd look and I'd just check in energetically. Does that create more ease? And if it did, I'd keep going. And then I get to something else. I'm like, oh, what if I took it and spun it like this? What if I took it and shined a laser light on it? What if I, like, all of these things? And so this part of me that loves exploring was no longer limited by the bounds of physical reality. So for head trippers, it's amazing if you can stop trying to do it right, but it even gets you closer to stopping trying to do everything right, because you're in the presence of, because part of the reason people have that is because they know they have enough mental capacity to know that there's some gift in there somewhere. So they know if they just keep their mind going enough, they'll find the gift. But when you BSOP with that going also, what happens is you get to use it to play, which is what you know it was designed for in the first place. And now you actually see it. You can test things on energetically and see where they go. It's awesome. It's so much fun. It's so much play. And then you can expand into like other awarenesses that you never knew were possible from there.
I just can't stop smiling. My mouth hurts because it's kind of like you're saying, it's like you're allowing that kid that play, like the willingness, I can do this. I can actually use all those things that goes on in there, but I can play with them and I'm allowed to, and it's actually not wrong. Woohoo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because how many other things have we done that involved energy, quote unquote, as though energy is this special thing? No, it's everything. Hello. But how many things have we done where they're like, clear your mind?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, oh, fuck. Oh, no, anything but that. Please, I hate this, you know? And the only way you're doing it right is if you were not thinking. And I'm like, fuck that shit. Use this thing. Use everything you've ever had available that's ever been told to you as a wrongness. Like all of it. Your joy, your anger, your frustration, your all of it. Because all of that gives you clues. If we're looking at it in the form of a session working on somebody else, all of that gives you clues to where this person is stuck, but also where they could go and what they could be that has been disavowed and disacknowledged in them, which is also a big part of the reason why they're stuck. And so you get to use all of it, everything that you've ever wanted to explore, everything that's been made wrong about you. This is where greatness lives. And what it really actually gets to be is the living, walking, talking expression of being our greatness. And there is nothing like that to change your perspective of you and the world. It's awesome.
Wow. Oh, I can't wait. So we have a class next weekend and I just can't wait now to go there and play. And we actually have, for the first time ever, we have a symphony workbook, manual, whatever it's called, like a 20-page book manual filled of tips and some how-to.
Awesome.
So
and we are not going to follow the manual by any means. Okay. So just know I will probably actually read through the manual because it covers a lot of what I get to in class about the specifics, about ways of looking at things. But this is not a class where we're following the manual, so don't worry about that.
No, definitely not. And that would never work. Oh, actually, all these things in the book is from like the past, I would say 5-6 years of classes, just pulled out from different ones. So it's quite a compilation.
Yes, and you did a phenomenal job on that compilation, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it was my pleasure. And, my mind, that thing you just talked about, got to play with something really fun.
Uh-huh.
So,
true story.
Yeah. Anything else you would like to add now when you completely fried me?
Oh, now is the time, now more than ever. This energy is more available in the world than it ever has been before. It's easier to access. You can do more with it than you've ever been able to do before. Because whether you know it or not, this change in the world that is bringing consciousness to the world is taking us back to our first language, which was energy. And our language of energy is not for communicating with people. People are idiots. Our language of energy is for communicating with every molecule and every subatomic particle in the universe. At a certain point, you have such communion with the molecules and can be such a space that they change by your request. This is us heading in that direction. This is us taking the steps that we need to be able to actualize that, to be able to live as that, to be able to be that and bring that to the world and be part of the world as that. That's what this is actually doing. And I haven't said it like that before, and because I don't want people to make it significant, and I don't want people to make SOP or me or anything outside of them the source. You are the source. This is just a massive contribution. And if any of that speaks to you, this might be a wonderful class for you.
So somebody added the website. If you want to know more about the symphony class, Dain's website is right there. You can read a bit more. And somebody was asking about the manual. The manual is part of the class. So if you would like the manual, come to the class.
Yeah, because you don't get the manual without taking the class.
No.
Just cuts.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful, and I'm vibrating. And so I will keep vibrating until next weekend.
Keep vibrating. And for those of you that maybe can't make it to the class, or those of you who want to prepare for the class, get the body whispering book if you can, if it happens to be available in your language. It is just such an invitation to be the space that allows us to be in such communion that anything is possible from there. And I also have to say that the way of changing something from consciousness and with access to these symphony energies is so different than it would have been before. The way of changing it is to choose to be a space of being and ask and know that your communion with the elements and the elementals and the molecules is received and is what is the basis for creating change. So what else is possible?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dain.
Thank you, my dear. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Wonderful to be with you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.